Across the world, men are being lured into online chats, where they are tricked into performing sexual acts.
Pakiramdaman ko na sumasakay na siya sa akin, doon na pumasok yung plano ko.
From a village in the Philippines, young workers then blackmail their victims, pulling in millions of dollars for their boss.
Some of the Western Union branches in the area around where she lived recorded the biggest takings of any branches in the world for a period.
101 East investigates the inner workings of an international online sex scam. Two hours northeast of the Philippines' capital, Manila, is a ramshackle village. We're here to meet a young man we'll call Mark.
Kasi sa isang buwan, marami talaga kami nabablockmail. Kasi everyday kami nag-online. Na-blackmail ko ng 300,000 to 500,000 para may income pa rin kami. Kumbaga, once na ma-blackmail pa namin yung magkakaroon pa kami ng pera once na nawala na ulit kami ng pera. Wala ko talaga akong idea na gano'n yung magiging trabaho ko kasi nga in-invite lang din ako ng friend na sabi may easy money nakikita through online lang.
Mark worked for a criminal syndicate that created a new type of cyber scam known as sextortion. He alleges one woman is at the centre of the online crime empire, Maria Caparas.
Siya talaga yung parang putok yung pangalan na siya yung madam-madam talaga doon. Siya yung nauna. Mayaman na talaga. As in, may mga kotse at bahay na. Ilang kotse, ilang bahay. Middle lang talaga yung pamumuhay nila. Sabihin natin may kaya or ano. Tapos nung nag-start yung ganung pamumuhay, doon na siya naging big time talaga na bonggang-bonggang pasabog, ganun. Bigla na lang siyang umangat sa lahat. Wala siyang ginagawa, tutuusin. Mag-claim lang ng pera, magpasahod lang ng tao.
As the number of victims grew, so did questions about the scam.
I had no idea what this crime was or how it could possibly work until I started looking into it.
Journalist Simon Parry began investigating the syndicate in 2016.
The first thing we knew about sextortion was a case in Scotland involving a 17-year-old lad called Daniel Perry who apparently received messages through Facebook. Had some money extorted from him, received sums of about £3,000 from him before he ran out of money. They then carried on threatening him, threatening to release these video recordings of him, and they started saying to him, well, why don't you kill yourself, and taunting him even. And the last message he sent to them said, I haven't got any more money, bye-bye. And he then took his own life.
Police investigators traced the chat to a criminal gang in the Philippines.
Usually you'll find these crimes might originate in Nigeria or some African countries and then get copied overseas. But here, this was the first that anyone had ever heard of these crimes being perpetrated. In about 2013, 2014, they suddenly started springing up. This crime didn't exist until Maria Caparas invented it.
The syndicate has reportedly extorted $1.9 million from thousands of victims.
Huge sums of untraceable money, all of which will be sent to Western Union accounts. Some of the Western Union branches in the area around where she lived recorded the biggest takings of any Western Union branches in the world for a period in 2014, 2015. There was so much money coming in at this time.
Caparas wasn't always so wealthy. She lived in the slums of Manila before moving to North Hills Village. She then started working in a centre where women strip and talk to strangers on the internet.
Let's face it, it's a pretty degrading line of work to find yourself in. And I imagine that's perhaps where her cynicism about the victims comes in. She's seeing men who are behaving in a very exploitative manner and presumably working with other people who are being similarly exploited. And at some stage, we don't know when, but clearly a light bulb went on and she realised how she could turn this to her advantage. It's an evil scam, but it's a very clever scam at the same time. And it plays on the fact that people are so ready to strike up conversations with complete strangers.
Na nagtrabaho ako doon, tapos syempre wala pa ako alam yung tinuruan ako eh.
Jason says he was in his first year of high school when he was recruited into the organisation.
Ginawa nila ako ng Facebook, pinagawa nila ako ng bagong Facebook.
After finding an existing account of a pretty young girl from Korea or China, Jason would then clone it to create his own.
Makatotohanan ng Facebook, merong may-ari talaga na so kada post niya ay yung popost mo din sa minsan ka sa akin hindi sila nagtataka kasi pag bino yung profile ko updated minuto may post.
Then it's time to look for potential victims.
Mag-search ka sa Facebook ng kunyari engineer lives in Malaysia, engineer lives in Singapore, Hong Kong. Alam namin na ayun yung trabaho nila. Mga mayaman, gano'n, may pera. Ang tinukuha namin yung may maayos na pamilya, yung maganda yung trabaho. Tapos syempre, kukunin mo doon yung may mga details na hindi ka na mahihirapan na kapag clinic mo yung siblings, andun na yung, lalo na usually, mas maganda kapag naka-in relationship sa Facebook.
The way sextortion works is that somebody will send you a friend request on Facebook, somebody you've never met before.
Siyempre mag-aantay ka ng mag-a-accept sa'yo. Kapag, siyempre mag-a-add ka ngayon, tapos bukas, pag-ising mo may mag-a-accept sa'yo. Lahat yan ipipi mo, hi. Oo, yung iba nagdududa na kasi, usually kasi yung iba, saan mo nakuha yung Facebook ko, ganon-ganon. Siyempre sabihin ko lang na na nakita ko lang sa you may know, ganon. Tapos, bakit mo ako inad? Wala lang, ganon-ganon to make friends, ganon-ganon.
Tawag din lang, parang ko na siya, inakit ko na siya.
Fellow sex scammer Mark says he worked alongside teenagers.
Meron ako doon nakasama, 17 years old lang. 17, 18, 19, tapos ang pinakamatanda sa amin, which is 30.
Good chatters would get bonuses and extra rewards. She'd shower them with gifts like iPhones and Samsung phones.
Mark says 30 scammers work 6-hour shifts out of a secluded house in the mountains outside the Filipino village of North Hills. Maria Caparas had another house that was well known there.
She owned a large property in the centre of the village. It was like an entertainment centre for the mostly young people who would work for her, and there was always crowds of kids sort of gathering around them. And of course those are the demographic that would be working for her or being primed to work for her as soon as they were a little older.
Mark says the main source of income for the local villagers used to be making and selling tea towels.
Pangunahin, tao dun, poor, ganun. Nagtatrabaho kay Caparas doon na, sabihin natin nasa 80%, nakatao.
And the scammers say no one wants to report Caparas to police.
Si Kaparas kasi powerful kasi nga siya yung unang gumawa ng trabahong scam, which is siya yung nagbigay ng trabaho sa mga tao, siya yung unang yumaman, siya yung unang nakapagpagawa ng business.
People are terrified to talk about what's going on. Not only terrified, but probably invested as well, because everybody has a son or a daughter or a brother or a sister somehow involved in one side of the scam or the other. With money, you can literally buy people, and that's technically what she was doing.
The scammers prey on men from all over the world. This victim spoke to us on the condition of anonymity.
I got a random Facebook request one night, what looked like an attractive female. At first I was resistant because I didn't know this person at all. At the time I didn't think nothing of it, like I said, so we started chatting. The second that we got onto the webcam, this person was already removing their clothing. I did not anticipate this. It wasn't that kind of conversation prior to that. I just thought they wanted to talk. They started removing their clothing, started doing some vulgar things with toys and stuff like that. And then started asking me to remove my clothing. I was resistant for a long time, for maybe about 15 minutes. I didn't really know this person. I didn't want to do that. I'm not really into that whole thing either, you know what I mean? But eventually I did. And I showed them my private area. This person proceeded to stop the video chat, and the screen went completely blank. And once that happened, I kind of realized something wasn't right.
Pakiramdaman ko na sumasakay na siya sa akin, doon na pumasok yung plano ko na ito nga parang sasakay ito sa akin, ganyan.
Mark says seduction is the key to extortion. The scammers take videos from porn sites and play them for their victims, pretending to be the woman in the video. Then they lure the men they're chatting to into performing similar acts.
Inakit ko na siya, nasabi ko na nakahubad ako, galing ako ng CR, kung gusto mo ba ako makita, sige magpapakita ko, basta once na magpakita ka din.
Jason says the scammers control the videos to make it look as realistic as possible.
Kasi yung iba kasi syempre magtataka yan eh. If you are in that video, wave your hands. May wave yun, i-click mo lang kunyari. Yung wave niya nasa 2 minutes, i-click mo siya sa 2 minutes. Para wave siya agad, ganon.
For the final step, the scammers gather what they need to extort their victims.
After nun, i-record namin yun. Pag-record namin doon, kukunin namin yung mga information na like Facebook, kukunin namin doon yung mga pangalan ng mga kamag-anak, pinsan, mga ganong kapamilya, or mga pamilya niya. Like asawa, anak, lolo't lola, or mga pinsan, ganon. Tapos after nun, doon na papasok lahat ng information na hawak namin, together with the video, nandoon. Tapos, doon namin sasabihin na kung free ka ba na pwede mag-show ulit tayong dalawa. Once na nag-show ulit siya, doon na namin ipapasa yung video niya na nag-show din. Sasabihin na namin na may hawak akong video, ganyan-ganyan. Kung magkano hingingin namin, dapat maibigay niya para lang ma-delete yung video. Kung hindi, ipo-forward namin sa lahat ng kamag-anak, pinsan, kaibigan, yung video niya. Once na nagbibigay pa siya ng pera, hindi ko siya titigilan.
Blackmail demands range from $500 to $15,000.
Malaki din naman kapag nakakuha ka ng mayaman na client. Tsaka yung takot na takot. Sa isang araw na mag-online ka, makaka-5 o 10 video. Kaya sa 10 video na yun na i-scam mo, natatakutin mo, imposibleng wala ka makuha dun isa. Usually yung iba kasi na nagmamakaawa na walang pera, ganon. Siyempre, tatakutin mo yung takot at takot talaga yung yung pipilitan lang namin sell your things, sell your ganon, appliances. Yung iba talaga nagbebenta.
Kaya doon pumapasok yung pagsusuicide kasi nga wala na maibigay. Halos mangutang na sa mga kapitbahay niya or pinsan, kapamilya, yung taong binablackmail ko.
Pero may iba kasing client na tinigilan mo na, hindi mo na kasi naawa ka, kinabukasan, biglang magsasend sa'yo na na I know you can do this to me. Ganun, yung matapang pa sa'yo. Doon ako napipiko na, okay, this is your wife. I send your doon ko sinasend yung video na mismo sa wife niya kahit wala akong makuha pera sa kanya. Actually, yung iba pagsusumbong daw sa pulis. Hindi naman ako natakot.
The scammers work with ruthless efficiency.
Focus muna sa isa, pero may ka na, kasi marami kang kausap eh. Parang nandyan lang sila, nakaantabay lang sila, ganun. Tapos after yung isa, yan, di ba na-video ko na, save ko lang muna yan, tapos kukuha pa ako ng kukuha ng iba. Siguro mga 6, 7, ganun. Mataas na yung 10. Yung iba nga, maabot pa ng 15, 20. Habang binablackmail ko siya, tapos nakapagpadala na siya, may tao na isa na magkiklaim ng pera. Tapos, pag na-claim na yung pera, sasabihin sa akin, for example, through tawag or text, chat, sasabihin na nakuha na yung pera, hingan ko ulit ng pera. Yun, doon ko ulit siya hingan ng pera.
Journalist Simon Parry says online sex extortion wasn't the only illegal business Kaparis was running.
She had another team of people helping her produce fake ID cards with which she or her lieutenants would go and collect the money from the Western Union branches.
Napapadala yung pera through fake ID.
The way it worked is that to collect these transfers, you just need an ID card that matches the name on the transfer from overseas.
This new type of crime threw up a challenge for Philippine police. Captain Artemo Cinco is a former member of the unit dedicated to cybercrime.
80% of our recorded sextortion cases uses social media. There's a huge difference in investigating a traditional crime, like a simple robbery, a case of homicide, or a case of murder. There is a gap. There's a huge gap on the procedure of how you will investigate cybercrime. The people do not know, they do not understand that we cannot just hack into someone's system and determine who is the person behind those who is victimizing them. Another thing, the social media administrators, they're outside the Philippines. They're not here. Not days, not weeks. It took months, several months for us to acquire the information that we sought. No, we need a lot of information to be able to identify who's the people behind the cybercrime.
So, for the last decade or so, we've been focusing on making the world more open and connected. And we're not done with this yet. We're always going to do this. But I used to think that if we just gave people a voice and helped some people connect, that would make the world a lot better all by itself. And in a lot of ways, it has.
Police teams across the world join forces to investigate and combat sex extortion online. One of these collaborations led the Philippines police to launch Operation Strikeback.
So this Operation Strikeback resulted to the crackdown of this syndicated group, which involves in sextortion cases.
Down, down.
Nice. That's it.
Down, down.
Police arrested Maria Caparas and some of her workers. They seized wigs, sex toys and other instruments the scammers allegedly used.
I was told that she was still active on social media in prison and sent her a message in hope rather than expectation, saying, I'd like to hear your side of the story. Will you let me come and see you in prison?
To Simon's surprise, she agreed to see him.
Insisting she was innocent, insisting that another woman in the village was the real kingpin and she was just being scapegoated. She almost convinced me. I mean, she told me that she'd been set up, she was crying, and I asked her, what did you think about the men who fall for this? She said, they're stupid. They're just stupid. I told them. I told one or two of them, don't do it again because you've learnt your lesson now. So she could switch quite quickly, and it's clearly a quite persuasive and highly confident person, probably a sociopath, you'd probably describe her as.
Maria Caparas was arrested on charges of robbery and extortion, but the case was dismissed because no probable cause was found. The Philippines National Police filed a motion for reconsideration, but it was denied. Caparas was released.
For whatever reasons, and we can only suspect what those reasons might be, no case ever came to court, and it appears to have simply dissolved, and Caparas is free.
The scammers allege Caparas has a close relationship with local police.
Siya yung unang taong nakapag-ipon ng maraming pera, kaya ayun, nagkaroon siya ng syempre, nagkaroon siya ng kapit, ng hawak na pulis.
Alam ko ilang beses na din kasi nandun ako, nahuli sila tapos nakakalabas din. Ganun. Pag once na may nagsabi na may hulihan, may surveillance ba or may huli, kung iniimbestiga na ba kayo, malalaman mo na.
Kapag nagkahulihan kasi, kapag may media, kukunan lang na kinulong, pero kapag wala nang media, ayun na.
Maria Caparas was quite brazen about the way she operated. She posted pictures of her 13-year-old son lying down covered in 1,000 peso notes and lots of other quite overt pictures. She was very open about the money they were making. I don't think she personally sees any reason to stop so long as she can continue getting away with it, and all the signs are that she's going to carry on getting away with it. She's the queen of sextortion, and North Hills Village is her fiefdom, her kingdom, if you like.